Hi, I'm Lisa. Normally stories like mine start with something along the lines of me saying I don't know where to begin, but that's not the problem. What I really don't know is how all of this is going to end. It all started on October 3rd, a day after my band and I finished our scheduled tour. We were just a bunch of girls in their 20s who felt ready to take on the world. We didn't care if that came at the price of being labeled outcasts. We knew the road to greatness is a rocky and tumultuous one, especially for an all-female rock band. We were scheduled to fly back to Los Angeles from the Dubai that afternoon. I received a call at around 2:30 p.m. that day. Hey, I'm Boss. This is a bit last minute, but my friend's birthday is tonight, and we're throwing a big party for him. I was wondering if we could book your band for tonight. I'm sorry, I said, but our plane is taking off in a couple of hours, and we're getting ready to leave. Please, my friend really likes your music, Boss continued. We'll pay you guys $50,000, and we'll book your first-class tickets home to make up for your missed flight. I was awestruck by his offer. I should have taken more time to think it through, but I couldn't think about anything other than the 50 grand. We weren't famous, and we made just enough from performing to cover our expenses. We did manage to get some dedicated fans over the years, ones who were mainly intrigued by our use of the didgeridoo and inclusion of words derived from ancient languages in our rhymes. Let me talk to the other girls, and get back to you. I rushed to tell the rest of the girls about what just happened, and they were more shocked than I was. That's what dreams are made of, baby. Celeste, our backup singer, screamed. I called Boss, and told him we were in. Perfect. I'll send over the limo. We have all the instruments ready, so you don't need to worry about that. As we were on our way there, I thought to myself how I could agree to this without asking even the most basic of questions. Who was he? How did he get my number? What guarantee did we have that we were going to get paid what we were promised? How did he know where to send over the limo without me giving him the address to the hotel where we were staying? These questions were quickly replaced by all the fantasies in my mind of the fame and fortune ahead. Whatever concerns I had quickly vanished once we arrived at the venue. It was a palace full of bright lights that can be seen from a mile away. The place was packed with people dressed in formal tux and gowns. The girls and I looked at each other with wide smiles as we were welcomed inside. It all felt like a fairy tale, one that I didn't want to leave. I felt a hand on my shoulder, and heard a voice saying, "You must be Lisa." I'm Boss. I turned around and saw the most beautiful man I've ever laid eyes on. I quickly leaned in and hugged him. Boss. How are you? I'm doing great, thank you for asking, he replied. Samir will take you guys to your dressing room. Where will we perform? The place is packed. The stage is in the back garden. Samir will take you there. We'd love to get a tour of the place, Celeste said flirtatiously. Of course, feel free to look around. Just stay on the ground floor. If you'll excuse me, I've got business to attend to. Samir took us to the changing room. A couple of minutes went by when an old woman walked into the room and began to shake our hands. She was very ugly, and her hands were very dry. Shaking them felt like holding a brick. Please make yourselves at home. What is ours is yours, she said. As she left, a bunch of girls came into the room to take pictures with us. Did you notice how hot the room has become since the old woman walked in? Celeste asked me. I did feel it. I also felt a weird wave of negative energy filled the room, but I didn't want to worry her. It's probably the heat from the fangirls, I replied. We had a couple of hours before our performance, so we went to explore all the wonders that this place had to offer. I couldn't help but notice the amount of food being served, which was not very far from where the stage was. My intrigue quickly turned into disgust as I walked closer to the tables. There was nothing on them but meat. I watched the high-class guests devour the food with their bare hands. I convinced myself that it was just a sign of wealth, and that they were from a culture where this behavior was acceptable. The girls and I went back to the changing room and got ready to perform. Our first act went great, but I was already feeling tired, so I decided to rest for a bit before our second act. There was no place for me to lie down in the changing room, so I decided to find a room on the second floor. I was too exhausted to remember what Boss had told me. The second floor was nothing like the first. As soon as I got there, I was overwhelmed by a musty, rotten smell. I walked over to one of the rooms and found a bed. I left the lights on and set my alarm for 45 minutes. After quickly dozing off, I had a nightmare that I remember to this day. It was the old ugly woman from earlier, running towards me with a knife, while screaming this awful screeching sound. I woke up before my alarm and saw that something else strange had happened. The lights that I initially left on were turned off. In addition, the bedroom door was closed, even though I remember leaving it open. I quickly got up and tried to turn on the lights, but was unable to move the switch. I ran to the door and tried to unlock it, but it felt as though it was locked from the outside. I started to scream for help while trying to open the door. The door then opened on its own after my many attempts to turn the knob. Once outside, I saw a boy who was around 3 or 4 years old smiling at me, so I smiled back and waved at him. He quickly ran into one of the rooms. I was afraid that he might get hurt, so I ran after him. He then ran into another room inside of the one I followed him into. I tried to open the door to that room, but it was locked. I remember thinking to myself, wait, did he lock the door behind him, or did he run through the door? It was becoming alarmingly clear to me that something very wrong was happening in this place, so I walked back to the room's main door to get back downstairs. I felt a hand quickly grabbing my leg and trying to pull me back inside of the room. I tried to fight it off, but wasn't strong enough. I then heard a deep voice speaking to me. Sing for us. We like listening to your voice, the voice instructed me. Who is this? I asked fearfully. I told you to sing for us. I can't, I'm too scared. Don't worry, Lisa, no one dies before their time. Who are you? I'm a friend, one who is reliable as he is loyal. I was finally able to get up and ran down the stairs. I looked everywhere for Boss to no avail. I found one of the fangirls from earlier and walked towards her. Hey, did you see Sebastian? Who's that? She replied. Boss, have you seen Boss? No, I'm pretty sure he should be gone by now that Grim is here. Who's Grim? Grimmery, the birthday boy. Also, Boss's name is short for Orbaz, not Sebastian. I thought to myself, how rude it is of him to just leave when he's the one who called for us. Also, what the hell kind of name is Orbaz? When I walked into the changing room, I saw the girls gathered around Celeste, who was in tears. What happened? Celeste, are you okay? You were gone for too long, and the guests were asking where you were, so I went around looking for you. When I got to the second floor, I was terrified. The walls had these faces on them that looked as if they were trying to break out. I then heard your voice coming out of one of the rooms. I didn't find you in there, but I saw a pair of eyes staring at me. They looked like a cat's eyes. I was then drawn towards them. It felt as if someone else had control of my body. I tried to scream, but couldn't even open my mouth. When the distance between us was less than a foot, I could clearly see those yellow eyes, but I couldn't make out a face. The only other thing I remember was how terrible his breath smelled when he spoke to me. Sing for us. We want to hear you sing. As soon as I was able to speak, I let out a loud scream and was instantly slapped to the other side of the room. It was then that I was able to get back here. There's something wrong with this place, Lisa. We need to get out of here now. I signaled to Celeste to tone her voice down. I know something is wrong, trust me, I told her. I know what you saw. But they're not just going to let us walk out of the front door. We need to be smart about this. Let's do as we're told, and finish our performance. Just keep your head down, and don't try to interact with anyone until it's time for us to leave. We went back onto the stage and continued with our performance. We saw who I assumed to be Grim sitting on a special seat close by with his head covered with a black sheet. There was a much larger crowd, and they were all singing along with us. It got to the point where they were louder than us, so we just played our instruments without singing. Things reached a new level of horror when some of the dresses worn by the girls in attendance went up as they were dancing. They didn't have legs. We just saw pairs of hoofs, the kind that you see on a goat. When Celeste saw this, she passed out. The band quickly gathered around her and took her back to the dressing room. I can't do this anymore, Lisa. Please, let's leave, she begged. I told her that we were almost done, reiterated what I had told the band earlier, and told them that what we just saw is more reason for us to stay collected. We went back onto the stage and went on with our performance. The crowd had gotten even larger and louder than before. I told the band to keep their heads down and just play their instruments. As I looked up, I saw some of the girls in the audience ripping their hair out while they were dancing. I thought they were wearing wigs. But as I looked more closely, I saw blood coming out of the torn hair on the floor. The girls and I were finally overwhelmed with horror as the audience transformed into hideous creatures that had goat horns and faces that resembled those of wolves. Suddenly, we began to hear the Islamic call to prayer as the sun was rising. We raised our heads, completely following the sudden silence, and saw that all of them were frozen in place, with their eyes pointing straight towards us. The girls and I screamed and ran out of there. After we got out, an old man stopped us and asked what was wrong. We thought he was one of them at first, but he was finally able to calm us down. We told him everything that had happened. "Where is this palace?" the old man asked. "It's right there," I shouted. My blood ran cold when I turned around to point at it. All the decorative lights were gone, and the outside walls were full of cracks. "This place has been abandoned for more than 20 years, said the old man. The girls and I looked at each other in utter shock. We were all thinking the same thing. Are we hallucinating? Is this a dream? And if so, how come all of us saw the same exact thing? After flying home, the band broke up. I started getting calls from Celeste saying that she has been seeing weird things around her house. I told her that it's probably just PTSD. A week later, I found out that Celeste died from a heart attack. When I went to her funeral, I heard the voice from the house whispering to me, "Don't worry, Lisa. No one dies before their time." It's been several weeks, and I have not spoken to anyone. Every time I look in the mirror, I recognize myself less and less. A journalist has been trying to reach out to me for over a week now, but I'm afraid to see him. I'm terrified of what they will do to him if they find out we spoke. I'm even more terrified of what they will do to me for not keeping my mouth shut.